What you're going to see in the next hour is a capsulization of my 50-year spiritual search. When I was 22 years old, now I'm 75, I began a spiritual exploration. And what I've been doing is presenting the information at my coffee shop. So let me show you what my coffee shop and botanical shop looks like. This is the Oasis outside of Chapel Hill, North Carolina, in a town called Carver. And we have night programs on holistic health, things like that. People come in here and just relax to help you remember why you came to the planet. And then these are my books. Many are written with indigenous elders. And the message is the same from the elders, from the shop, from my books, and that is, remember who you are, why you came. You are coming from the source, which is unconditional love, and you're here to represent that unconditional love in your life, to learn and teach love. So the main concept here is once you start to remember that and make that your goal, make that your lighthouse, your beacon, once you start to live that reality, you kick in the laws, the physics of love. Till then, you deal with the physics of fear. And I didn't know that when I started out 53 years ago. And so now I'm sharing that with the work that I've been doing. But something happened recently that made me add this little clip you're seeing on, because you'll see the 1 hour was shot about 2 months ago. Something came to our attention in, let's see, I guess it was in June of 2022, that confirms everything that you're going to see me present in the 1 hour, and we're going to add that to the end of it. So I wanted to put this piece on and tell you that at the end of my presentation of my program that I did here, you're going to see a 5-minute piece that blew us all away. I don't even want to tell you what it is until you watch it. And then there'll be clips where you get more information. So that's going to be added at the very end of this thing, and it is basically explaining how we're going to enter a quantum awakening on the planet. How are we going to pull off the healing of the human species and go on this quantum awakening, and who is here to help us do that, both human and also space family people, if you can open your mind to that. So that made me think, I don't want to do this presentation without saying this most amazing thing we've learned in the last 3 weeks, basically. And we're going to be working with what you're going to see in the next month. So we're going to have a first-hand knowledge. So aside from my shop, aside from my books, I've hosted 54 One Love events in Jamaica. I've hosted 15 One Love events on Native American reservations in Upper New York State. In Arizona, I've done almost 150 events in prisons in Western North Carolina, and I've done programs in Guatemala. And everything carries the same message. Just whatever religion, no religion, wherever you are in life, whether you're a Native American, a guy like me, or even in prison, if you will remember who you are, why you came, who sent you, and what is the assignment. You are a being of unconditional love, sent by the source of unconditional love to learn and teach love while you're here. And if you will do that, you will kick in, as you'll hear me talk about in the next hour, a series of miracles that are so eloquent and do one thing. They're eloquent as you can imagine, and they expand love into whatever situation that you're going into. And you'll see that during my 1 hour presentation. Now, my masterpiece, which I'm not fully responsible for, is my daughter Alicia, and she came to town the last few days, and I wanted to get her in here. So she's not, of course, her mother had a big hand in who she is and other people, and she's also got 4 Rastafarian grandfathers in Jamaica. You're going to meet them in the rest of the show. So I thought, oh good, let me put my daughter, say a few words to you. So this is my masterpiece.
Well, as I sit here right now, I feel like we're in this time of great turmoil. I'm seeing it all around us. I'm seeing it with the shifts politically, but I'm also seeing in the natural world this incredible organization that's coming together. And when I say the natural world, I don't just mean that in nature, but in people too. The people are getting ideas. They've had ideas, they've been working on them for years, some underground, some in bigger ways, but now we're finding that as things get more churned up and more chaotic and more crazy than ever, people are going to be ready for new solutions, and they're going to be ready for these technologies that are coming out that were already existing, and that they're going to be ready finally to see these things. And I think that's some of the technology that he'll talk about later, and also just choosing our own technology that's in our own body is through meditation, through working with our DNA, through our thoughts and our mind, we're able to bring our lives more alive, more joyful, and more full of love every day. And so it is truly a choice that we make every day that changes our DNA, then heals our own bodies, to choose to be in love despite all of that is swirling around us, that we are the beacons, that we are the grounding points that ground that message of love, that ground the joy in this world and brings it forward. So I encourage you to continue on the path of love, and also ask, how can I contribute to these new ways of being that can bring us together in beautiful ways that we could have never imagined.
And just so you'll know, given my 53 years working this out and working with this physics of love, and then working with her with it, she's in her mid-30s, we got almost 90 years of working with the physics of love. And you're going to hear from me what I've done in the books and everything, but after graduating top of her class from UNC Wilmington, my daughter opened up a yoga and sustainable goods empire in Charlotte. At 24, at 28, she sold it, put everything in a backpack, and for a year and a half by herself, traveled all around the world, Portugal, New Zealand, Australia, Maldives, Thailand, etc. Came back by herself, came back, and then basically bought a van, and van traveled for 6 months, 2 years out on the road, and then ended up in Paradise Valley, Montana, where she bought 20 acres and a small home. And 25 feet below this is a 126 person bunker that was built by a cult that I actually wrote about in my hippie book 40 years ago. I wrote about it. And unbeknownst to either of us, she ended up buying the land that had one of these bunkers that a cult had built that I wrote about 40 years earlier. That gives you an idea of some of the magic. So my life is explained in the next hour, but I wanted to let you know what she's already produced at 35, given working with the physics of love. And she's also got a great relationship with James, her husband, who's a miraculous individual who's been working with the physics of love since he was in his mid-20s, mid-30s, when a serious health event got him off of the track of the physics of greed and fear and ego that he was pursuing in Manhattan as an executive. So what we can tell you is it works, and it's simple. You don't have to even be literate. Get up every day and see how much you can give to the world, rather than getting up every day and seeing how much you can get for the world. So is it forgiving or forgetting? And it works. So enjoy what you're about to see, and please check out the links below that we're going to add some more information, but the 5 minutes at the end piece will explain to you what's come up recently that will absolutely, one, blow your mind, is totally valid, and will assure that this species is going into a quantum awakening. So, one love, my brothers and sisters, and I hope you enjoy the next hour. So what I'm going to do tonight is this. Let's see, 53 years ago I took an inordinate amount of LSD, unbeknownst to me. And that reoriented my entire life, right? And I'm going to give you the results of 53-year exploration. What I pieced together, and along with millions of other people who are on the same page as me, and they started from different locations. What the spiritual search has shown me, and it's confirmed as you're going to see during the evening, and it's reiterated by millions of people and many esoteric older teachings as well as new teachings like the Course in Miracles, the Art of Spiritual Peacemaking, and as well as things like Transcendental Meditation. That is the way the universe is set up, is that Every human being has an inheritance to live a absolutely magical, miraculous day, irrelevant of what your outer circumstances are. You don't have to belong to one religion. You don't have to know how to read, because a third of the world is illiterate. You don't have to take a shaman program in Peru. You don't have to go to Esalen Institute or Oasis. And it's quite simple, and Jesus showed it that. You get up every day and you offer whatever happens during the day. And remember, when two human beings come together, whether it's married or someone that you just bought, a candy bar from, there's the potential for a holy relationship to wake each other up. So every day you get holy relationships potential. So what you do is you just get up every day, and it takes me about 10 minutes to get my head there, when I wake up. And what you get is the opportunity to go out during the day and have all these holy relationships. And as you do that, you're 100% successful. If you get up every day to give, you're 100% successful. If you get up every day to get, you're like maybe on a good day, you might be 20%. And you're frustrated. Damn, that person dissed me. Or that person didn't want to hear what I had to say. Or that person wouldn't have sex with me. Or that person didn't hire me. You see it? So why go and get 10, 15% success, which is an illusion anyway? Even the 10 or 15% is an illusion, because love is freely given. Real love, unconditional love. Any love with a condition is a barter. It's not love. So the way the universe is set up is quite remarkable. If you get up every day and go out into the world, knowingly or unknowingly, with the concept that I'm going to see how many people I can give to, you know what I mean? Instead of asking that person that I just met in a conversation to validate me, I'm going to validate them. You see it? Then you're going to have a miraculous day. It's going to build and build, and then you're going to live a miraculous week. And then you're going to come so firmly committed to it, you're going to live a miraculous life. Because there's another thing that's not understood, is there is the physics of three-dimensional world. This appears solid, but it's open space, right? On top of that, there's a speed of sound, speed of light, all those kind of physics, are going. The physics of love has no boundaries to it. You see, it's got no boundaries. So it can take my 17-year-old daughter and put her in front of 2 million Jamaicans on Bob Marley's 60th birthday, right? It can allow me to host a $3,000 concert with the Havasupai live on the bottom of the Grand Canyon. And we did it 2 weeks before they were going to vote on uranium leases. And it looked like the vote was going to go yes. Well, if they had done uranium leases at the bottom of the Grand Canyon in their village, and they were going to move them all up to the plateau, then the Grand Canyon would be radioactive from this point on, right? And we stopped it with a simple concert and getting "Don't Vote That Way." Your name Havasupai means guardian of Mother Earth. So you see how it has no limits to it? Where the physical world has very defined limits. And so it's as valid today as it was for Jesus. And Jesus said, everything I do, you can do in greater things. You can walk on water, you can heal the sick, you can raise the dead, you can create loaves and fishes. See what's going on? And he came down 2,000 years ago and said, look, I want to demonstrate to you, and I'm going to give you parables, so I'll make it simple stories. And then I'm telling you right now, everything I do, you can do greater things. Well, what does that say about who Jesus is? He's obviously our elder brother. He's not the only begotten Son of God. Everybody makes a big thing. Well, God was so whatever that he gave his only begotten Son to the world. Well, let me tell you something. The guy comes back 3 days after he's crucified. So there's no big give up here. If God would ask me, would you give your daughter to live the life of Jesus and come back after 3 days in the tomb, I'd say absolutely. I'd even take that life. So the whole concept, I mean, think about this. The image of Christianity is his suffering on the cross, which lasted 10, 12 hours. It's not on his resurrection. I got a picture over there where he's meditating. I forget. You see how they built into Christianity victimization? You know, they took our Messiah and they brutally did this to him. Therefore, you should hate Jews. You should hate Romans, whatever. So they missed the whole point. Why show the guy suffering on the cross? Hell, a lot of people gone through that much pain today. You know what I mean? I'm not saying it was any good deal. Let's face it, 10, 12 hours of pain. The rest of the time you get to saving millions of people. You see what's going on here? So what he's doing is coming with the same information. Now, what happened next is as I continue on the path, I found that there's some people that are known all around the world for their message of love. And they're the only people that are well known at that level with a message of love that there's only a handful over the centuries. There's Jesus. There's Muhammad Ali, who refused to go into the Vietnam, even though he couldn't box for 3 years and he almost went to jail. Martin Luther King, he was Baptist. Muhammad Ali was Muslim. Jesus was Jewish. Gandhi over there on the wall in the plaque was Hindu. Bob Marley behind me was Rastafari. Mandela behind me is Methodist. And here's what they discovered. Everyone came from a different religion. None of them knew it when they were young, except Jesus. No one ever, when these guys were born, I guarantee you not one of them thought they'd ever be world famous. Now, if you're a John Kennedy, you might think you're going to be world famous. If you're a George Bush, if you're a Rockefeller. But believe me, these guys at the wildest dreams never thought they'd be known as a teacher of love at a forever international level. And what do they arrive at? There is a creator, and the creator is love. And if I will offer that love wherever I'm sent, I will bring a healing to that situation. And I will go whatever path that takes me on, even if I get assassinated at 30-something like Martin Luther King or Gandhi at 71. That's okay. That was needed to complete the work. You see it? So if you look at the people that we really respect in the world, and there's only a handful of them who really seem to, do that. None of them like us. They all forgot when they were young. It took me an acid trip at 22. They all believed in Creator. They all believed they were on assignment, and the assignment was the same. Offer love in every situation in which you're sent, and you'll bring healing to it. See how simple this is? It's incredibly simple. So that is the world view, the world perspective that I didn't make it up. They all showed me the way. And now there are millions of people who are discovering this. Not discovering, remembering this. And when you remember it, and I'll forget 3 more times before I go to bed at night. So, I got to constantly, something will come up and I'll be fearful or concerned or whatever. If you will make that your guidepost, if you make that where you're heading, if you will make that the core decision maker, even after you put to bed your fears, because you've been trained a different way. You've been trained none of this. A lot of you, this is new information. You're not going to hear this in synagogue. You don't hear it in church. You don't hear it from the leadership. So you're going to have to train your mind to think 180 degrees opposite of what you've been doing. And as you do it, during the day, miracles happen. I'll give you an example. Sometimes they're big miracles. But let me just tell you an example of a little miracle. It's not that big. One when my book Rasta Heart came out, it has Bob Marley on the cover. And if you Google my name, you'll see there are two Robert Roskins. There's my cousin Bobby, who runs a $2 billion a year company in Manhattan. And there's me. We're good friends. So Bobby calls me after the book came out, and he said, "Cuz, I got an incredible story for you." I said, "Tell it to me." He said, whenever a man named Peter Shukott here in Manhattan is the #1 entertainment lawyer in the world. He does Paul McCartney, he does Lady Gaga, he does the Marley family, he does all the top acts, right? He's like $1,000 an hour. Whenever the Marley family sees anyone use Bob's image or name without permission, they call Peter Shukott in Manhattan and say, "Sue him." Well, Rita came through the Montego Bay Airport this morning and saw your book. She just got off the plane in Miami and called Peter Shukott to say, "Sue Robert Roskind." Said, "Peter Shukott is my best friend from Penn State. We still go out once a month with our wives." And Bobby, so Peter said, he's known as Bobby by his close friends. "Did you write a book with Bob Marley on the cover?" He said, "No, Peter, that was my cousin. Call Rita back and say he's doing the same vision that her husband had. He gives the money to the elder Rosses and let it be." We went on to do 54 concerts in Jamaica, and we had their full blessing. I actually spoke several times with Rita at events in Jamaica. There'd be a panel discussion of Rita Marley and 5 other well-known people connected to Bob Marley, and me, this white, bald-headed Jewish guy. I got a picture of it in one of my books. Now, none of that could have happened if they sued me. I'd be permanently persona non grata with the Marley family. And there was only one name out of 7 billion names that could have stopped it. You see it? Well, there's no way that, maybe I'm lucky. But as many of you know, that's one of about 50 mind-blowing stories. But the path was made clear. I didn't know it at the time, for me to do the 54 events there, and for my daughter to open Bob Marley's concert in front of 2 million people. In other words, some intelligence set it up so instead of being persona non grata with the Marleys, I'd be just the opposite. I'd be endorsed by their lawyer, saying, "Look, I know this guy's cousin. He's for real. He's not about money." And then when I met her and we talked and everything, she was blown away. When Peter told her the other Robert Roskind is my best friend, then she was like, "This is a sign from some creator." Now imagine an intelligence that can set that up. I mean, if our intelligence over humans here, that's like from the other side of the street to the other side of the street. Because they're doing it for 7 billion people. Now, I don't know how it does it, but then I figured out, and this isn't 100% clear to me, we're doing it. In other words, each one of us has a higher self. And that higher self is in each carnation is setting up these situations. So there's me as a higher self, as a spiritual being. Problem is I've been trapped for 75 years in the ego and mental and the physical lower self. So I'm seeking the higher self, and it's been made itself known through events like this. But I'm not that familiar with it. But that way I could see on if we each come to the planet, and we were told we are co-creators with the divine. If we're coming to the planet and co-creating in love with the divine, then that higher self says, I'm going to be needing to get clear with the Marley family for what I'm going to do, which I didn't know at the time, later in Jamaica, so let me set it up. Now, this is the first event. So when the book came out after this whole thing with the Marleys, we went to Jamaica and introduced the book. Well, let me just continue. Let's see.
Sing your song. Oh yes, Bobby, can't you see what they did to he? Up to now, them don't stop cry. This one is tribute to Bob Marley. Right now I just can't find the right words to say, man, but Marley on my mind. Right now, Bobby, can't you see? Only ice there at Germany. So why are your eyes so blind? Just can't find the right words to say, man, but Marley on my mind. Right now, Bobby, can't you see roots to plant to Germany? So why are your eyes so blind? Right
Good.
now.
So Jah's plan reveals itself.
Yeah.
And in the end, it's good over evil.
Good always over evil.
Over evil.
And the truth always reveal itself. Truth come here in no clothes, naked.
It always reveals itself.
Yeah,
Yes.
Always reveal itself.
Yes.
No clothes.
And the lot.
Is the lotto.
The lotto.
Lotto.
Yes. That's gambling.
Yeah.
Yeah. I tell him I'm afraid to win. But me winning 40, 50 million now. Right? Yes.
Might get too cold. So it has to be on that balance.
Yes.
So the person that is so balanced within his or herself, yeah, will touches the child, touches the water, even still the water, because he or she is the water also. Yeah? He will touches the wind because he is the wind or she is the wind also.
No mother, no father, no sister, no brother, no friend can't get those things. I am telling you not moving right, I tell you, so you got to hold it.
No matter who they are.
Man, you gotta move, man.
And if I don't tell him, I tell him, if I don't tell the individual, I tell my father to move him.
Move it.
And he's going to move.
So these are the elder Rosses that I found. And they live in lean-tos you could build in a weekend because they can't, people could break in and steal it, so they just don't have anything worth value. This guy Scram is a great cook. He would cook me and Julia and Alicia wonderful vegetarian, incredible meals over a tire room with charcoal. Right? And these are the men that I found that brought the message of one loved out. Now, in the beginning, you're going to see I hung out with them, and then you're going to go next to the 57th birthday, where my first event in Jamaica. By the time we finished, 5 years later, the Governor General of Jamaica was speaking at my events. Now, the Governor General, Jamaica is a Commonwealth of England, or UK. And because of that, the Queen of England, Queen Elizabeth, appoints a Governor General in Australia, in Canada, Trudeau, as a titular head, because they're still part of the empire, right? So the Governor General of Jamaica lives on a 100-acre compound in the middle of downtown Kingston. He's a beautiful human being. When I was there, he was a 90-year-old former principal, and loving as can be. And he was speaking at my events. Now, the head of state of any country doesn't do something like that unless they vet you really well. So think about the fact that, this is another miracle, that the head of state of Jamaica is willing to be my opening speaker. And believe me, when you put the prestige of the Governor General of Jamaica, you're bringing the prestige of the royal family, you're bringing the prestige of, all that history to the event. And here's why he did it. I actually have his words. So I was going to host an event where I was going to bring together leaders. I was going to invite all the top social leaders, not just social, religious leaders, etc., that I could think of and that other people would counsel me of. I was going to invite all of them to come to a really nice event at the top of the Pegasus Hotel to tell the leaders, whether you're a business leader, social leader, whatever, you're a leader, you need to lead the people into love. So we're here to big you up, to encourage you to be more loving. You see it? You know? So when I was given an introduction to him by another series of wonderful coincidences, then here's what he said when I asked him, would you join us? He said, I'd be honored to do that, he said without hesitation, to speak at the leadership event. Because if the head of state's going to speak, everyone invited is going to come. It's like if the Queen of England is going to speak, and you're one of the elite that got asked. But if I was just going to speak, they wouldn't come. I would be honored to do that, he replied without hesitation. I have been observing your efforts. I'd already done 2.5 years, that time about 1.5 years, and I'd already done like 30 concerts in the ghetto, mostly in the ghetto. I have been observing your efforts through the press for several years, and I think it's time we in leadership position give you more support. In fact, because of your family's message, I have started greeting people by saying one love, and I sign all my correspondence that way. When you call Monsignor Albert was the ghetto priest, tell him I will be doing the introductory remarks, and I hope he'll do the opening prayer. You see it? So here's a picture of my wife and my daughter with Sir Howard Cook and Monsignor Albert. Now, that is a major miracle, and I hadn't planned it. I hadn't planned it. And you see what goes on when you remember why you came, what the assignment is? I mean, you could say, well, that's just a coincidence, you know. I became so close with Sir Howard Cook that every Thursday at 7 p.m., he had a small group gather in his library, 7 or 8 of us that were spiritual leaders. And I was welcome to go whenever I was in Jamaica, you know, on a Thursday night in Kingston. And ironically, the property almost adjoins Bob Marley's home. Right? Now, what's going to happen next is Scram, who's the key guy in Rasta Heart, is going to tell you that all around the world, people are looking for someone with a kind-hearted to lead them. And he sees that coming. Let's see.
People in all parts of the world where it is war, they're looking for better treatment. They're looking for this kind-hearted spirit to rule them. So without this great love, anyone would not have that great kind-hearted spirit from the heart to deal with the massive. They all need this touch, this love touch within the heart, that they can know that these people need to enjoy themselves and they need to be free. People need to be free and live happy on this land, because this earth is big enough for everyone, for who born already and who don't born yet. Place is here for all of us. Yes, and we need to be happy together to enjoy this earth the right maximum way. Every day I pray for this system, and I can see that my prayer coming up. Yes, it coming to a perfect standstill, where people will be able to jump and shout and say, yes, here comes the day when we fear no more. Yes, that's true. Yeah, man, I know we're going to be on the paradise land, you know, to enjoy all this. Yes?
When I decided I want to introduce the book in Jamaica, I thought, well, no one knows me. I'm not going to be able to get much impact. But if I could find the people in Jamaica that are known to teach love, and if they would join me, then we'd get a lot of attention, the message. So I did, and the other thing is I thought we got to do it on Bob's 57th birthday coming up, and I want to do it in his home in Kingston, which is now the #1 tourist attraction. It's got his home, it's got a vegetarian restaurant, it's got a multimedia center, it's got a gift shop, and it's where he lived. So I go to Jamaica, and I start about 5 or 6 weeks earlier, and I start asking people, who teaches love in this country that almost everyone knows of and would agree is teacher of love. And I got their names along with a few more that couldn't make it. And I went to those people and I said, look, I want to host an event. I hope that I can do it in Bob Marley's backyard. And you've been named as a teacher of love in your country. What an honor. Will you join me that night and send a message out to your country via all those microphones and everything on radio at this time, of encouraging people to be more loving? Of course, they all said yes. So now here's another miracle. Dig this one. So now I got to get Bob Marley's home. That's where I want to have it. So I go to the home, me and Scram go to the museum, or home, whatever you want to call it, and we knock on the door of the manager, Barrington, and said, can we use this facility in the backyard for the up-and-coming 57th birthday in a few weeks and host this event? He said, no, Ma, no one uses the home but the family. I said, darn, I thought I was supposed to do it. Well, who could give me permission? He said, well, Mama B, Bob's mother. I said, well, can I have her number? No, Ma, we don't give Mama B's number to anybody. And then what happens next is, so we're walking, we just got turned down, we're walking outside the home. Here's his home, if you can see it. And who's outside the home? There's Scram talking to him. But his 2 Grammy Award-winning sons, Stephen Marley and Ziggy, not Ziggy, but Damon Marley. His 2 sons, which are internationally famous people, are standing out in the yard smoking a joint. What's the chance of that? Right? So we go up to them and we explain what we want. I say, can I get your grandmother's number? They go, no, Mom, we don't give Mama B's number to anybody. Right? So now I'm thinking, okay, 2 turn downs. Right? We thank them. I understood why they wouldn't. I mean, I look like I stepped off the golf course in Mobay. Not like what they're thinking would carry a message of one love in their community. As I'm walking away, I feel a tap on my shoulder, and I turn around. There's an elderly Jamaican man there, and he says, I heard what you just told my nephews. I think Bob would want his home used for this. Here's Mama B's phone number. You tell her that her brother John said give you a listening ear. Now, what's the chance of that? If I had taken the first turn down and walked away, that would have been the end of it. If I went and did the second one, it looked like the end of it, and then there's a third chance. So I go to see Mama B. I called her, and she said, no, you can't use it. I said, well, Mama B, just hear what I have to say. We're going to come over to a big event on your side of the island, and can I just come see you? She says, okay, but you're not going to use it. But I think I'm going to meet Bob Marley's mother. You know what I mean? So Scram and I go there after going to this big concert that we went to, and she got a very nice home. She was born in a one-room shack, no plumbing, no water. Bob was born in that same one-room shack, right? And now she's got a nice cottage there, and the second biggest tourist attraction in the country is his crypt and the one-room shack where he was born. So he's buried in the crypt, which is about the size of this area here. And he's buried, his guitar's on top. It's an enclosed building. And his body is buried below that. His guitar's on top. So I go to see Mama B, and here's Scram with Mama B smiling. And after about an hour reasoning with Mama B, what happens next was, I said, Mama B, that's what I'm about. I need to drive back across the island, so I need an answer. And she sat there for like 2 minutes. She like 2 hours. I could tell she was thinking it through. And then, because I recorded it all, I have her entire talk here. She said, you're on the same mission Bob was on. You can use the facility. and I want to tell the guards to get all the tourists away from the crypt, and I want to make you and Scram lunch, and I want you to go up and be alone with Bob in his crypt. Right? Now, how can that happen? You see what's going on here? So when I doubt this is true, when you doubt this is true, think back on the stories. Because if I just gave you the information without any stories, without any proof, go, yeah, it's kind of like cascading hippie rhetoric, right? Let's be honest. Cascading hippie rhetoric. But the stories are the evidence that it's worked, and it blew me away, and none of this that I planned. It wasn't like I thought, I want to write the book, and then I'm going to get Mama B to let me use it, blah, blah, blah. This happened, unbeknownst to me. You see what's going on? And sometimes just little things. A guy comes in here about 2-3 months ago, and him and his wife, he's all distraught. His son in Asheville is using bad drugs, and he saw the sign out in the hall. He wants to know about the botanicals. Well, Brandon's with me, and Brandon got in trouble with drugs when he was that age. An hour later, this couple left feeling much better about it, took some kratom and kava, and I said, what brought you in here? He said, well, I got a bald head, and his son came out. I needed some cream for my head. So we came in here, and then I saw your sign. I said, well, that's the reason, but you were meant to come here to get all this information and everything. And he kind of, yeah, I guess so. He turns around and walks out and gets to the door, and Angie, this hairdresser friend of ours, walks in. He makes a U-turn to come back and get a napkin. She's standing there, he's standing here, and as he's reaching for the napkin, she goes in her purse and pulls out a little thing. She said, Robert, I brought you some cream for your bald head. Now, it's simple. Oh, it's just a coincidence. But to that guy, it was proof that he had been meant to come in here. You see it? I mean, we all busted out laughing. He said, you can't believe it. But it's those things that happen, which seem like, just a lucky thing, that let you know, keep going on this path. We will help you. We will help you. I opened one of these in Livingston, Montana to be near my daughter about 2.5 years ago. After 2.5 months there, I decided it wasn't for me, and I sold it to a friend of hers, right? And moved back here and took this back over. About 4 months ago, Steve, the policeman's sitting there, and a guy comes up to pay his bill, and he wants to know if the food's any good, here, because so Steve said, well, you just moved to town? He said, yeah. And Steve said, really? And I'm listening to this, where'd you move from? He said, Livingston, Montana. And Steve said, what made you move? He said, well, we opened a coffee shop in Livingston and COVID hit, and we couldn't sustain it, so we decided Chapel Hill sounded cool. And I looked at him, I said, you opened the coffee shop across from the depot, didn't you? He said, yeah. I said, I lived in the Airbnb, and I opened the coffee shop around the corner from you, the Oasis. So I know that coffee shop. I know the guy you sold it to. Now think of this. Here's the only 2 guys in the world that's opened coffee shops in Livingston in the last 3 years, right? When we didn't cross each other in Bozeman or in Livingston, 2,000 miles away we crossed paths here. The only guy that could have done it. The only guy that could have shared that thing with me. And if Steve hadn't asked those questions, he would have walked out. We never would have known. You see it? So something is guiding our lives if we allow it to. And to allow it, you say, use me. Use me, my passion, my talents, whether it's music, writing, taking care of older people, taking care of kids, whatever. Use me to express your love on the planet. So that was the first event that we did. We'll do a little bit more than I'm going to show you.
Revelation. Oh, this will be war and frustration. Oh, this will be a revelation. Oh, this will be war and frustration.
Yeah, Baba, yeah. I say, where is the brotherly love? And where the sisterly love? And where is the brotherly love? Where is the sisterly love? Although they move out with the Berlin Wall, that didn't solve the problem at all.
To exercise one love doesn't mean that you like a person, doesn't mean that you seek out their company, it doesn't mean that you allow unloving or abusive treatment by them. It does not mean that you forego justice or reparations for past wrongs committed. For it is only through making amends that our souls are cleansed. You would still get up, stand up for your rights. One love simply means that in your heart you understand that everyone you hold bitterly is also a child of God who has temporarily forgotten who they are and gone astray, and you wish the best for them. You understand that, like you, they were sent here by their Creator to remember their own divinity by learning and teaching love.
This is, to me, is a very good start. Okay? Because after this and the lighting of the candles and the lamps and the torches, we have to take into action this machinery that we are cranking up. I am more than willing. The Jah Messenger Ministry, give thanks for Mr. teaching, in the house, the Kabbalah, Jah Messenger family, and the Rastafarian house, the Nyabingi, the Church of the Baba Shanti, and all those who represent righteousness here. Whatever denomination, whatever religion, I say, I give thanks for everyone who has turned up this evening. God, this shows a good sign that there are people still seeking for love and peace in our community. So with these things in mind, let us focus on justice and love. So I say love and justice, they go together. Bless them. Give thanks.
So to speak. This is the definition of Rastafari from the Mali heights of consciousness. From his songs, from his life story, his life history, and from the lives of other Rastafarian brethren, I see Rastafari as multidimensional. It's a mystical, herbal, biblical pathway leading one from one state, Babylon, to a higher state called Zion. Jah Rastafari.
Let us teach them how to love by our lives. This is not a voice of vengeance. This voice is to heal. On behalf of all the sisters in this country who raise their children against the odds and who love their children and who love their men, all the sisters who have stood up for their sons and their husbands. We, the women of this country, have never used our strength against our men. We have always used our strength in support of our men. I want to remind them that we love always our sons, always our men. We ask that we, our sisters, step up and be part of that powerful healing of this nation. That we continue to do what we always have done, to love and to support and to heal.
You see, there is no miracle greater than love. It is God's most precious gift to us. It is not a feeling. It is a daily decision. God bless.
Hold and allow us to live a life that will shine a light that man will seek and glorify the Almighty Creator of the universe. As we are here to strengthen the work of the Rastaman, the work of Bob Marley, the words of the Rastaman, the word one love. And we believe that if every man possessed that one love, I'm not talking about hypocritical love, I'm not talking about carnal love, I'm not talking about partial love, I'm talking about divine love. Jah. Yes, Rastafari. The sacrificial one. Glory to the Almighty. If we possess that, then we'll be able to give that and share that. And if we can share that divine love one unto another, we will definitely bring about a healing to the nation.
Who is the leader? That is the leader. Massive and crew. Massive on the posse open. And Jamaica coming. A massive and crew. We are the leader. Rastaman too. And the leader. Who is the leader? Chai is the leader. We're coming through. The massive on the posse and a read up and two. And Brother Lucy leading too. We have to sing. This is song two, and the massive on the posse, Bonnie and crew, and this club alley. Put on in dread, the happy come too, a massive on the posse, the white there too, and the picnic too.
So this is when you gather the teachers of love together. This is the first of 54 concerts that I hosted on the island over the next 2.5 years. And I'm going to show you the last event we did. And this is why we could do so many. They started to write what we were doing up in the paper. They interviewed us on TV. Bev Manley, who's the former First Lady of Jamaica, whenever we would arrive to do more concerts, she would interview me on her talk show. She was like the Oprah Winfrey of Jamaica. She would interview me the next day. So the country is getting to know us and know what we're doing. And, what happened next was kind of remarkable. I get a call in my hotel one day. It was about our second or third tour. And it's Joseph Forstermeyer, who's the head of the Jamaican Tourist Association. He said, "We really like what you're doing. We think you're bringing our crime rate down. It's good for our country. The Tourist Association wants to help you." I said, "Well, I don't take sponsorship. I don't take money. I don't take government grants. It's commercial free. If you let money enter or put a name to it," Nike wanted to do something with us when we did the Native American. They were going to do as many concerts as I wanted, but it was going to be the Nike One Love concerts in Native American. Can't do that when they're ripping off people all over the globe, So he said, "Well, we understand, but how about if we gave you free room and board whenever you and your entourage were on the island?" I said, "Oh, then I can do a lot of concerts." So sure enough, whenever we're going, I called Joseph, and he would set up at a Sandals, Beaches, a guest house. Well, we set up at his place. He owns the Round Hill Hotel, which is the nicest hotel in Jamaica. He would give us a 5-bedroom villa with a fully staffed kitchen and 2 staff people, right? So now we're doing 54 events over the next 2.5 years. And by the end, we're bringing in the Governor General. Now, let me tell you another miracle, and then we'll close with the set of miracles. This event, we got all set up. We had invited all these different teachers of love, and Scram and I are at the Hilton Hotel on a patio of our room smoking a joint. It's like midnight. And he says, "Rob, we need to go and invite the Prime Minister tomorrow or the next day. Before the event, the Prime Minister, P.J. Patterson, and we have to invite the opposition leader, Edward Seaga. These 2 men have ruled Jamaica for 28 years. One's white, one's black. One's white, one's black, right?" And he said, "And we got to ask them to come to the event, not to speak because they haven't earned the right, but we want to big them up to teach love to the people." I said, "Scram, nobody knows me in this country." I said, "We can't go into the Jamaica House and meet with the Prime Minister. They're going to laugh at us if we say, 'Well, your country, Rostam, an unknown author.' And even if we go to the opposition headquarters, we might get to talk to one of his secretaries." That's midnight, right? And he says to me, "Robbie, if the Creator if John wants us to meet with them, they're going to have to hear our invitation." By 6:45 in the morning, we met with both men. What's the chance of that? By 6:45 in the morning. here's what happened. It's 6:30. We go downstairs and to get breakfast, and there's all kind of well-dressed Jamaican men and women going this way. And we had just asked Antoinette, the woman that you just saw speak, to be there, and she was running on a third party. So she was the spoiler. And we had met her number two in Horace Green, then her number two, a few days earlier, and she agreed to speak. He's going by, so we fall in step with Horace Green. With his whole entourage just going down the hall. And they all turn in right and stop. And then next thing we know, Horace gives an invitation to the policeman, and the policeman think the invitation for all three of us. Right? We just been ushered in the most prestigious event of the year in Jamaica. It's called the Jamaican Leadership Prayer Breakfast. And if you get an invitation to them, to that, you are, you made it. And this is the Governor General speaking that morning. So he's the one that starts the prayer breakfast every year. And as we walked in, I'm dressed like I usually dress. There's Antoinette across the room, and she's waving to us to come over. And as we walked across this big ballroom set out for 400 people, the noise starts to drop. As we realize every eye's on me and Scram, thinking I know almost everybody in this room, but I don't know these two guys, and they're not dressed for the occasion. And how the hell did they get in here, right? So by the time we get to Antoinette, it's almost dead quiet, and everybody's looking at me and Scram. And there's Prime Minister Patterson and his wife at the head table, and Edward Siaga and his wife at the head table. Right? What's the chance of that? So Scram says, Robbie, we got to go and ask him. And I said, I'm thinking, God, I never talked to the head of state. I mean, I talked to the mayor of Charlotte once at a festival, you know, but I never talked to the head of state. I realized he's right. He said the night before, if John wants to hear the message. So we go up to Prime Minister Patterson and Siaga. He talks to Siaga, then I go to Patterson. So as we're walking up, his security detail looks at him. Should I let these guys in to the little area where they're sitting? And Prime Minister Patterson shakes his head because he wanted to know, who are these people and why are they hugging my spoiler? So I walk up to Patterson, and there's a picture of, this is me and him and Bob's daughter 3 years later. As I walked up to Patterson, I said, Prime Minister Patterson, my name is Robert Roskind. I've written a book of Rasta Heart. I left one I mailed one to Colonel Lindo, your aide. He said, oh yeah, I saw that book. I hope to read it one day. I said, look, I got to tell you, we're going to host this event in Bob Marley's backyard. Right? Now, no one has ever used Bob Marley's backyard for 30 years until now. Not the government, nobody. So I already got his attention. He's like, oh my God, Mama B's going to let you use we can't use it. And I said, I've invited many well-known teachers of love, all friends of yours, Luciano, the people you just saw. But I got to say, when I asked people in Jamaica who teaches love in Jamaica, no one's ever mentioned your name. And he went back like that, like I had slapped him. And I felt bad for him, but I put my hand on his sleeve and I said, but guess what? No one's missing Mr. Siaga's name either. And we both laughed. And I said, I'd like you to come and have a dignified seat, a special seat to big you up, to teach love to the people. So we want to big you and Siaga up to do that. And he said, well, where are you staying? I said, I'm staying here. Here's my name. He said, I'll let you know through my aide, Delano Franklin. And then we swapped, and I did the same thing with Siaga. 2 days later, I get a call from Delano Franklin, and he says, Prime Minister Patterson want me to call you and tell you best of luck to you, my brother. But he's not coming, right? So that was the first event, right? Now, to close the show, hope it didn't break. No. To close the show on this story. So now, that was the first event, 57th birthday. Now, up until the 60th, we had done 54 events, 3 years, right? So now the 60th. On the 60th, I had every conscious artist agreeing to play with me at a small venue I had up at the University of West Indies, right? The government's putting on a massive concert downtown Kingston where they spent tens of, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars, you'll see it, to build a huge stage, a huge backdrop. They got all of downtown Kingston cordoned off, but I went and got all the TV and radio stations because I got all the conscious artists, world famous reggae artists. I got Luciano, I got Culture, I got Warrior King. You know, I got all these world famous people that carry Bob's message. And the government doesn't have much of anything. They got stems and seeds. I got buds and flowers, right? So I don't care if I got a little venue that only holds 2,000 and it can hold 20,000 down there because I got the ear of the whole country. So Delano Franklin calls me and he says, 3 years later since I talked to him, and he said, Prime Minister Patterson has a real issue with what's happening here. We cannot let a white guy from a former slave-holding state outshine the government's concert for his favorite son on a milestone birthday. I said, I see you really do have a problem, don't you? He said, yeah. Prime Minister Patton wants to know, can you move yours down here and we'll merge them together? I said, I tell you what, tell Prime Minister Patterson that everyone I've ever had on stage with me in 54 events, this will be the 54th, earned the right to be there. If he will agree that everyone that plus everyone I've already invited earned it, anyone else we add to it, we both have to agree as a teacher of love. Because if you're going to put corporate heads and politicians and slack artists up there, you're going to undermine 2.5 years of my work, 3 years of my work. You see it? Oh, now it's brought to you by the head of Air Jamaica, whatever. I said, so if he'll agree to that, then I'll agree to merge the concerts. A day or two later, I get a call from Delano Franklin. He says, Prime Minister Patterson, give him 5 minutes to open the show, and then it's yours. So the government of Jamaica just turned it over to me and paid all the bills. 10 days before the event, I get a call from Delano. We're going to have a big press conference at Jamaica House tomorrow. Would you come and bring Luciano and Culture, two biggest stars? So we go to the Jamaica House and we go in the press room, which is about maybe 5 times this size, maybe 3 times this size, and it's packed with all the press. There are TV cameras across the back. There are all kind of microphones everywhere. There are photographers. They had a stage just called the press conference. Everyone goes. So he's got 4 chairs on the podium, and I'm sitting on the front row where they told me to sit with Culture and with Luciano, and he walks in. Though the whole room stands up. I didn't know that when the head of state comes in, you got to stand up. Even when the governor general comes in, they stand up. He comes and takes the seat. He invites one minister, a different minister who's in charge of the event, to the second chair. He invites Stephanie Marley, who's Bob's daughter, and in charge of the Marley Foundation and the Marley Home, to take another chair. And then he gives the 4th chair to Bob's niece, Janine. I'm written out of the script. I understand what he's doing. He doesn't want to admit that. He gets up there and he says, the government of Jamaica, the Jamaican Cultural Development Commission, has assembled the best known teachers of One Love to perform together on this milestone occasion where we're going to celebrate Bob's message of One Love. You see it? So, but I don't care. I mean, kind of stunned, but I figured that's okay. We're going to get 2 million people. Stephanie Marley, which is here, all of a sudden Stephanie starts bending down to where you can't see her. She's on the podium. Now, that means she must be going to throw up or something. You don't do something that inappropriate when all the eyes are on you. And everyone has stopped listening to him and they're looking at Stephanie, and all of a sudden she rears her head back and her locks fly, and she says, I want to stop this press conference right now. Nobody stops the head of state in front of his own press, unless you're a Marley, because they got more power than the government. And he's alpha male in the country. No one tops him. He didn't know what to do, so he's turned it over to her. And she looks at Janine and said, Janine, would you go sit in that empty chair right there? And Janine, everybody watches Janine. She says, Robert, would you come and sit in Janine's chair? And she said, the government's not doing this. We're not merging with the government. We're not bringing our birthday cake because of the government. None of these artists are performing for the government. Because when nobody wanted to reinforce my father's message of one love, this family came down here not a token number of times, but 53 times into the ghettos where my father was raised to reinstill the message of one love. And that's why this concert's happening. Prime Minister, you could cut the tension with an eye. He's just been humiliated in front of his prey for misrepresenting the whole thing. He doesn't know what to do, so he looks to me and he says, well, Mr. Roskind, you want to say something? So, I walk up and get at the podium, and, I didn't know what to say. I'm the only white guy in the room. I'm the interloper. And then it hit me. I said, Jah is the Jamaican word for God. Jah sent white. I don't know why, but Jah sent white. And everybody cracked up. And if I want to pass this book around, if you'll notice, the Prime Minister is smiling. Jesus, in that shot. Even he cracked up, right? So now it's the night of the event. And the night before the event, they asked me to meet, and they're going to show me where his security detail will be for his 5-minute speech. What protocol is, you stand here, you introduce them to your wife, your daughter, blah, 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 right? And so what happened next was, so I go there and I spend an hour with his protocol and his security people. 3 hours later, I get a call in my room that Prime Minister Patterson is not going to open the show tomorrow night. Thank you. Do you understand that, Mr. Roskind? Yes, I do. Thank you. Click. No explanation. Nothing. But I know what's happened. He struggled with his decision up until the night before. He had just been humiliated in front of the press. You see it? It would be known to the public that he had to earn the right to be there. Plus, he knew that I'm speaking after him. Maybe I would mention that everybody here but the Prime Minister earned the right to be here. You see it? And he decided he couldn't take the chance. What we've experienced tonight in the last hour and a half is the world we want to live in, is the world that we've been looking for, where everyone you deal with is talking about healing the planet with love in themselves and each other. You see it? And that little bit of 30-second flash of Babylon, that shows you where they're at. All ego, dress nice, be sexually appealing, buy this thing, stay in your ego, have the attention on you, whatever it is. That's the difference. But yet, when you walk out that door, that's the normal society. Well, this is the normal society. We're meant to live in a state of grace. We're meant to come down here and do the work we volunteer to come here and do. And when not in a state of grace, something's the matter. And as we all know, something's been the matter for 5,000 years. You see it? Because that's when this system started over in Sumeria and China and India. And this was the last landmass they reached in the 1500s. And did away with the indigenous people that lived in a cooperative society where you were taken care of from cradle to grave, maximizing your health and happiness. The women couldn't be chiefs, but the women chose the chiefs because women knew the heart of men better than men do. Everyone figured out what they love to do. I love to plant. I love to take care of the old. I love to take care of the sick. I love to build shelter. I love to hunt. I like to farm. And you would offer that to the tribe. There was no money. Everyone split it up. So imagine if we were here 500 or 600 years ago, we all would get up in the morning, do what we love to do. We would hang out with 500 people that had nothing but our own best interest in mind. When you had a child, you had all kind of other women to help you raise it, other men, your auntie and your grandmother and, you know what I mean, your sister. Can you imagine living like that? And they all believed in one creator. All 600 tribes had reached the conclusion that there was one divine great spirit And here's why they did that. Imagine if we were living here and everything came from the earth. There was no stores. Our shelter came from the earth. Our clothes came from the earth. Our medicine came from the earth. Our food came from the earth. Right? Imagine what your headspace would be like in that world. And that every day you're seeing miracles happen that are providing you with what you need. It's just second nature to you. They knew there was one spirit because they were witnessing every day the miracles and the abundance and the benevolence of that creator. So to them, they were born that way. It was just like second nature to them. Of course, it's one spirit. Then the colonists come over here and go, well, you don't have a priest to tell you what's right. You don't have a Sunday morning to praise the God. They're going, what are you, nuts? You know, you don't have any labor-saving devices for 10,000, 20,000 years. What's labor? You know, doing something you don't want to do. Well, we don't do that. You don't have bigger homes. Well, we want to be out in the Creator's world. We want to go in a shelter when we need it. You see it? You see the difference? When they knew they were one with each other, one with the Creator, one with the planet, and here comes this new society that we're all living under to this very moment, and they're saying you're separate from your Creator, you're separate from each other, you're separate from the planet. Those three lies has caused all the human suffering except for occasional disaster or injury, right? Is because we were shown for 5,000 years you're separate from each other, black, white, gay, straight, Democrat, Republican, whatever, and you were separate from the Creator. You got to pick the right religion and not sin too much. And the earth is just a warehouse of stuff. Whoever can take it and sell it. You see why this is crazy making. But humans live this way. They lived in a sane world. And so my whole goal is to tell you guys about the system because you're all young, you know, and well, George and Aaron are mid-level, but still got a lot of years. All the pain you'll avoid by doing this, and you don't have to go back and live in a TP. You got to take this consciousness and infuse it in your day-to-day life. And if you do that, you're going to become under protection. You're going to live a mystical life, just like I mentioned at the beginning of this thing. You're going to live an incredible life every day. You see it? You can't coat the whole world with leather, as a Native American saying, but you can make a pair of moccasins. You will, from this moment on, have access to live an incredible life, no matter the chaos swirling around you. Right? And if enough of us do this, we'll kick it into the next divine humanity. We'll kick it into a humanity that remembers its own divinity. But don't worry about the bigger picture. You're not asked to heal the whole damn thing. You're not asked to stop every war, stop every bullet being fired. You've been given 1/7 billionth of the problem. You've been perfectly prepared to do it. You see it? I've been perfectly prepared to do what I'm doing. Each one of us has. You know? So whatever you've gone through, whatever mistakes you made, whatever craziness you've been through, has prepared you to be able to offer that wisdom to somebody else. So just claim your inheritance as a teacher of love, and this thing will prove itself out. So this is the last clip, and when you realize what's going on here is, you know, a 17-year-old girl in a peach-covered dress from Boone, North Carolina is the keynote speaker talking to 2 million.
February 6, 2005 would have been the 60th birthday of reggae legend Bob Marley. The occasion was marked by a huge concert on Knutsford Boulevard in Kingston. The night featured musical performances and poetry by many of Jamaica's top cultural artists. The concert was a collaborative event involving the Jamaica Cultural Development Commission and the Roskind family. Robert and Julia Roskind are Americans who first visited the island 4 years ago. They were so deeply impacted by the spirit of the nation that they have now become advocates of the One Love philosophy.
As I mentioned, we came here 4 years ago on a family vacation like hundreds of thousands of other people. But we left and went home with our faith in humanity restored after access to your culture and your people. Like all of us, we are not immune to suffering. Is that we represent the voice of millions of people around the planet who love you and love this country for the One Love vibration you have sent out.
The Roskind family shares the government's belief, which is encapsulated in the Values and Attitudes campaign, that peace and love reside in all of us, and that if these qualities were allowed to come forth, the result would be a better society for all.
Oh Lord, look at your world today. So many people, they have gone astray, and lawlessness now prevails, causing destruction, heartache and pain. We cry, oh Lord, hear your cry. We cry, oh Lord, hear your cry. Oh, immorality's on the rise, Lord, I see so much compromise, the shedding of innocent blood, the misuse of knives and guns. Men's hearts are failing them for fear.
The concert, while celebrating Bob Marley's birthday, was also a platform to appeal to the good that is in all Jamaicans, to heal our country through music with a message of peace and love.
Those are Bob's
Symbolically,
grandkids.
the event was also a culminating point of a violence-free campaign initiated by well-known Jamaican sociologist Professor Barry Chavans.
For 6 days,
So all of these
a group of
are the
cyclists
people that I worked with over 2.5 years.
from various
So
clubs,
all the artists you're seeing,
cycling clubs,
and this guy Barry Chavans,
His Excellency's
we had now
vessel
worked together for
across
53
the
different
island of
events.
Jamaica.
You know, and when I'd come to the island, Bev Manley would have me on the show, and I would gather the troops, and it built up over time. You know, and the more well-known people that joined me, the more well-known people joined me, because I was being endorsed by all these other people. I never planned any of this. It just kind of rolled out that way, you know. And that morning I had breakfast with all 20 some odd people at our hotel with me and Julia and Alicia, and I said, we're going to leave here tomorrow, and we may never come back. I said, you don't need a white family from North Carolina taking the lead on healing this country. You're the country's leaders. You're the people they look to for love. We just came up to support you, right? And I said, so we may never see you again after tonight. And then we went on and did the Native American thing. I didn't know any of this. All I knew is that it wasn't our destiny, even though we were well loved on the island, even though we were well known, even though a lot of people asked us to move down there and become Jamericans, right? That's the term for it. And we could have continued. I knew at some deep level it broke my heart, but I knew they didn't need me doing this. And then when we left, soon after that, we were given an assignment with the Native Americans. They took us to Guatemala and led us to the Mayans, right? That took us to the prison system, and we did about 150 events in the Western North Carolina prisons. That took us to Oasis. It's the first middle-class assignment I've had. I mean, you don't get any more press than Native Americans, Mayans, and Jamaicans. You see it? And prisoners. That's about as oppressed as you can figure out. So this is my first, middle class thing. I kind of missed the Native American vibe and the Rasta vibe. Everybody here has been fucked over by this system. Happens, but they're waking up. We're waking up big time. So about 3 more minutes and that'll be it.
A group of cyclists from various clubs, cycling clubs, took His Excellency's message across the island of Jamaica. They went through some rain, a lot of sun. They suffered many deprivations, camping out sometimes, a little hunger at times, and they have completed their journey after visiting many communities.
The message of one love that Bob Marley gave to Jamaica is being repackaged and resent to a society that has been badly battered with daily news of violence and death. The hope is that the essence of this message will take root and cause a healing in our nation.
For those who don't know, this is one of Bob Marley's songs.
There's a natural mystic blowing through the air, and if you listen carefully now, you will hear. This could be the first trumpet, might as well be the last. Many more will have to suffer, many more will have to die. Don't ask me why.
I would like to just reason a little bit. You know, we can all.
Buddy Whaler, Bob Marley and the Wailers.
We need to be really serious about bringing some peace to Jamaica. We've been going through this gun situation where we see so much guns all over the place. Gun more than sugar, gun more than flour, gun more than rice, gun more than cornmeal, gun more than saltfish, gun more than iron. Guns spoil, me I tell ya. We need to stop them gun thing right now. And all the people who know that they are responsible for bringing guns to the children of Jamaica, repent yourselves, rebuke yourselves, and cease from doing such evil act of bringing guns to the children of Jamaica. Because if it doesn't stop somewhere, one of these fine days, we're going to eat of the bitter fruits of our own doings. So we need some love, and we need some true heart. Every time, every time, every time. One love, oh God, mercy. Give thanks and praise to God, and I'll be alright. Let's get together and feel alright. Give thanks and praise to God, and I will feel alright. Let's get together and feel alright.
So that's it. That's my message. You know, it's as simple as that. Anyone can do it whenever they're ready. I'm on a recruitment mission. Get as many people to understand how the systems work. There's a physics of love that's nothing like we've ever been taught. And it works every act of unconditional love is a miracle. And when they're not happening, something's the matter. There's been something the matter for 5,000 years, and now there's a natural mystic in the air, and I guarantee you it is happening. So Will it bring the whole planet with it? Will we divide in two? I have no idea. But I know my mission. You know your mission. You know, and then you'll watch your life get better and better and better, and less pain, more happiness, better health as you commit to that path. So, and I'll forget this during the day too. So I'm still working on it. Namaste. That was a nice evening.
Dr. Michaels, it's an honor to be sitting here with you today. A very, very interesting chain of events has caused this interview to come to fruition in the first place, all surrounding a technology that you've developed that many call medbed technology, because that's really what it emulates in its essence of how it works and what I would call the miracles that it's allowed to come to fruition on many people all around the world. It's a technology that I've seen firsthand dissolve a 12.5-inch cystic fibroid in my aunt's uterus, a technology that has caused TLS to actually encourage me to come and help raise awareness to this incredible healing modality that you've created, but also to help figure out a way to make it more accessible around the world. And what's interesting is that you're actually the first person that I know of that TLS has accepted and agreed to associate with publicly without hiding your identity, which is a very big deal, and I'm sure that it's all for good reason, especially with the what I call technology. I know you have a different way of speaking about it, but it is an incredible technology that I know I am sitting here for a very good reason to help bring out to the world so we can help make more accessible. So with that being said, before we go deeper into what this technology is all about, what we're actually sitting next to as we speak in this interview, can you share a little bit more about your background to create a foundation for those who don't know who you are and the work that you do?
Okay. Yeah, people ask, where did it start? Well, my parents met in engineering physics. My mother, a nuclear physicist. My dad, the aerospace, electrical, mechanical, structural engineer. Met in engineering physics, and oops, I was conceived at Tesla's power plant site, with Niagara Falls, and on their honeymoon, which my mother was not happy about. but she was fissioning plutonium in the labs, Battelle Labs, working on the bomb the whole time she was pregnant with me.
When you say the bomb, are you referring to the nuclear bomb?
Yeah. Working on bomb technologies. And so coming in, I see everything as that combination of engineering and physics. So I see the body that way as a circuitry. And but I thought everybody grew up with my favorite toys, which were Geiger counters and gyroscopes, and healing all the animals on the farm. So I was very blessed in that my parents were both hyper genius. Mensa, I grew up with all the gifts of the Mensa. Support for development, and coming in going, my mother was working on the bomb, my dad did stealth bombers and worked on Mach 3, and I'm going, how do we heal? How do we bring healing to the world? How do we heal all of this? And so that was what my quest has been, and I started in chiropractic, reflexology, nutrition, Ayurveda, acupressure, 1971. And so there's that whole background of really focusing on how do we bring healing. But I also studied Rife technology and radionics in the early 70s. And by 1978, I built my first scalar healing light chamber after doing a whole bunch of experiments and research and incorporating materials from NASA and doing a lot of research on photons and importance of biophotonic energy and the importance of standing columnar waves in the scalar. And we were seeing absolute total miracles in 1978, but it was one person at a time. Can't heal the world that way. But we saw reversals of all kinds of things because the power that made the body heals the body. So it's not like my technology is doing the healing. No, the power that made the body heals the body. When the body has the right information, the right energy, it wants to heal everything. The body wants to function perfectly. And so it's just a hyper healthy, energetic environment that we've created, kind of like you recharge your cell phone, but you're recharging every cell of your body with a wireless transmission of energy and dense intentional informational fields combined with the photonics, and because the DNA is biophotonic. But this was a whole download of instruction to create this after being recognized as one of the top healers on the planet, because I'm really a hands-on healer.
Is it safe to say, from what I'm understanding with what you're expressing here about this technology, which we'll dive into in just a second, it's not the technology that's healing you, it's the technology that's creating an environment for you to heal yourself?
That's correct.
Understood. So energy enhancement system is what we're looking at over here. I know this is called the cube, and you have many other ways that you can formulate this in a room with multiple different screens and systems, 16-unit systems, 24-unit systems. For short, I know you call it EES technology, the energy...
EE system.
EE system. Understood. So can you explain a little bit more, before you explain how this thing works, how did it come to you? I mean, this is no joke. When you're seeing people getting healed in an hour, in a few minutes, in a few hours from things that they say are impossible, you need surgery or you're going to die. And we're seeing people step into this room and being changed almost instantaneously. How did something like that come to you? Was it given to you from somebody? Did it come to you through spiritual essence, spiritual ways? How did you bring this to fruition?
Yeah, it's a really, really good question, because my mastery is with the body and tracking things cell by cell through the body, and the body has consciousness. And the DNA, specifically working with the DNA and the codes of the DNA and the memory and the cell memory, but the DNA. And the DNA is biophotonic. We are bodies of light. In fact, my original work was under body of light, and that's a federal trademark, copyright, etc., from way back to, I think that was finalized in 97 or something like that. Body of light, because we are bodies of light. Prime function of DNA is storage of photons. And so I have all the scientific and medical background, but bringing it forward, and I was meditating during a Scorpio eclipse in the early 90s, 92, actually. And I was meditating and going, the clearer your question, the clearer your answer. ask and you shall receive is a law. And so I was asking, okay, now how do we bring healing to the world? There's only so many people I could personally teach or touch or train. How do we bring healing to the world? And even more specifically, how do we create the quantum leaps of consciousness for accelerated evolution?
Yes.
For a new heaven and a new earth through us. And it was a download of instruction to program technology to emulate my work. As I was already recognized as top healer, people flew in from everywhere. I'd be booked 40 hours straight with sessions, waiting lists of people, because anything and everything would heal. Because the body wants to function perfectly. So I used to say I'm like jumper cables. So that's what we created, kind of jumper cables to the body. But we're like jumper cables for, that spark of life, that optimal, light force, literally light force, life force, energy to flow through us and to touch the hearts of every cell. Touch the, because when you activate that light within you, it reminds you who you are, all that you're here for, all that you have access to. And so it's spiritual science. And yes, I can go right down all the rabbit holes of all the actual physics and biophysics and quantum physics and nuclear physics, and so I have all that background and the medical side. And I'm recognized as a doctor of natural medicine besides a biophysicist. And like I said, Mensa, our brains are a little bit different, so I can go right down into all the science, but it's really spiritual. And so I was asked to create this technology to create that quantum leap of consciousness to bypass some of the projected realities. How do we create that consciousness where you can call forth all the wisdom of what's been held in the DNA? How do you call forth all the wisdom of our ancestors? How do we be here now in the fulfillment of all the prayers, all the promises, all the prophecies of all who have gone before us? Mm-hmm. And call forth all that wisdom rather than being stuck in any old patterns or programs of old genetic damage even that's been held in the DNA or in the cell memory. How do we call forth the wisdom of all that and be present now, as the fully realized Christed conscious beings to walk the planet in total balance and total awareness of who we are, all that we have access to, and how highly we're connected. So there's a lot of science to that, but it's an embodiment of truth. Because it's truth that sets us free. And that's part of how this was developed, is the cells vibrate and resonate with the power of truth.
So, first of all, I love the fact that you bring it all back to the spiritual core of everything, because that's really what everything kind of emerges out of. I think one of the main problems with medicine today, and even science today, in the way that we're applying it, is we're only focused on the physical. And people forget that spirit world and the intangible roots that everything emerges from. So I appreciate the fact that you bring that in, and I think that that's why this technology came to fruition, because you connected to, call it the wisdom of the ancestors, to source, to light. Everybody has a different name for it, to God. But I do believe that that's why we're sitting here, based on the expression of your explanation. It's coming from a deeper root, and not just the surface of physicality. So I want to ask you a question. I'm looking at this thing over here. I see a lot of lights. I see it moving very fast. Some move faster than the rest. Some lights are different colors. How does this thing work?
Well, you could see this as polychromatic therapy, like your ultimate light therapy. There is that aspect to it. And the DNA is biophotonic, of course, as we talk about. But how do you create those quantums of light, the biophotons? Well, that comes through the intersection of fields, phase conjugation, phase conjugate wave pairs, where you have the collision of fields, which creates an implosion and a release of charge. So it creates a torsion field, or a tube torus torsion field, your scalar vortex. And that combination then with the light is how we're interfacing with the body, because the DNA, the whole, everything is in that torsion field, or that scalar vortex, which has been called the secret of life, right?
Correct.
You know, but also with the light and dense intentional informational fields. So it's a combination of you know, it's a whole layering of things, and you're seeing it in its Fibonacci sequences, your golden mean, but it's, you know, creates the Fibonacci sequences has to do, I was told specifically to incorporate that because everything in the body is based on that Fibonacci sequence, or the golden mean, which but the specific for that is to activate and mobilize the body's cell, you know, the body's stem cells, which are, you know, because it's activating and mobilizing the body's own cellular replication patterns. You know, so, and it's designed to interface with the DNA. If you look at it, you know, if you can kind of see it, we're kind of close to it, but it's like 12 strands of DNA. It's designed to be specifically emulating 12 strands of DNA to activate all the latent capabilities of our DNA. That's not junk DNA.
So can you say that this can actually work to activate certain strands or aspects of your DNA?
Yes. And if I put it to a black background, it looks precisely, specifically like out of the Genome Project. Even though I developed this to interface with the DNA way before I ever saw any of those screens from the Genome Project.
Very interesting. What kinds of things have you seen done with this technology healing-wise?
Oh gosh, we're very blessed. We've literally seen anything and everything heal. The body wants to heal. You know, we've had people literally sent for hospice. I think I showed you a picture of a general. Did I show you that?
I don't think so.
We can maybe show that.
Oh yes, with the burns?
Yes, the third-degree burns over his whole body, 3 strokes, 77 years old. He was sent to hospice by the VA. And I said, just get him here, get him to me. He had total paralysis, both sides. No bladder control, no bowel control. Everybody thought he was dead. I mean, he looked dead, but they brought him in. I carried him in. They brought him for 4 hours a day. And I showed you the picture after 10 days where he's standing. And
looked much better.
Yeah, and brought him back to life. And he was able to fulfill and go back and complete and accomplish some of the things that he really wanted to accomplish before and that was 77. I think he passed when he was 82. But amazing man, amazing story, and you know, I told you some of that, and just fascinating stuff. And another example of stroke, for example, Dr. Dream, Mark Peebler, he had a double stroke. I sent him a message, just get here and get to an EE system ASAP after a double stroke. Well, he got here. He ended up coming here about 3 weeks after his stroke. It took about 45 minutes for him to come in that door and make it to the system. He could not, and this was with the walker and 2 people helping him, he could not stand at all without falling down. After 2 hours, though, he walked unassisted from over 100 feet, unassisted both ways, without touching anything intentionally. And he's doing fantastic.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, so we've seen just crazy miracles. We love miracles, but it's just, you know, the power that made the body heals the body, really. And this is like, how do you plug the body back into that cosmic light socket? Universal, unlimited power on, and that's your light force energy.
I know you can go on with stories endlessly of the things that you've seen, even from the conversations that you and I have had off camera. But I want to ask you a difficult question that I'm sure a lot of people are asking. If this works the way that we're saying that it works, and it creates the miracles that we're seeing in many people all around the world, how hasn't it been destroyed? Coincidentally.
Yeah, I'm very highly protected, but there have been many, many attempts on my life. I mean, let's be real. But I'm also very highly protected because of the high level of beings that have our technology.
Can you speak more about that?
Special forces, for example, but admirals and generals, and that I mean, so it's been very highly protected in those ways as well. And also, it was initially I only let it out to private homes. That's why now about 90% of the systems are actually in private homes. And actually, one of the initial systems that went out to a student of mine who was studying with me, studying healing. I'm recognized as a kahuna in Hawaii, and he was studying healing with me, and it went out to him, and he introduced himself at our first training in Hawaii that I did with him as a Wall Street tycoon, but he was part of the Rothschild family. So he actually, one of the first systems went to him.
So what you're saying is there are elites in the world that are using this technology?
Yes. And they want to heal from all their own abuse and trauma as well. The first full system was finally installed in Golden, Colorado in 1996. And so there's a history from there of that we can talk about as far as who showed up because it creates we're colliding photons like CERN Fermi Labs, creating photonic fusion. So it's a cold fusion type event.
Okay. I know you had an experience, something having to do with NASA, DEFCON. Can you share that?
Yeah, I guess we can.
Whatever you're comfortable with.
And very, very interesting because next thing you know, there were ships overhead when I finally got a full system set up, and black helicopters because this was near NORAD, things like that, and then actually somebody from NASA was sent to find out what we were doing, because it showed up like the signature of a nuclear sub on land. So it ended up, so I was told that, I was told this fairly recently by the person that sent NASA to us, that there were actually 300 men in hazmat suits that surrounded us. I said, I didn't see that many, really. I didn't see all those. I saw some. But anyway, we ended up putting a system down in Houston.
Okay.
And I would get briefings from NASA as they were studying the effects of the technology. And part of the research that was done was studying the effects on the DNA. And again, I designed this specifically to interface with the DNA. So studying the effects on the DNA was the top geneticist out of Baylor University, and they found that it was repairing all the breaks in the DNA, all the genetic damage, but all the DNA, because it's designed specifically to put the DNA back to its original divine matrix. I like to say we have designer genes. And how do you put the DNA back to its original design? So it's designed to intentionally put the DNA back to its original design. They found it was repairing all the damage, all the breaks in the DNA, and lengthening the telomeres. So that's true age reversal. Nobody knew what telomeres were. Nobody was talking about that back in the late 90s, but that's true age reversal.
I understand the longer they are, the longer you live.
That's correct.
So there's a direct correlation.
Lots more research on that. And shortened telomeres creates shortened life. You see shortened telomeres, for example, with cancer. But this is going to try to lengthen the telomeres, which are like the end caps of the DNA, or it's the end caps, like a shoestring, or I talk about, this is a scalar wave here. It's really good for hair, and lengthening it grows super fast.
I need that.
Hair grows in thick and fast and things like that. But the ends don't split because it's a unified, cohesive, coherent, unified field effect. But also it's because of the collision of the photons creates, a fusion type event, which creates hydrobifurcation, which is a release of the active oxygen. So you've got like your ultimate oxygen therapy. So you see the cells, the red blood cells, perfectly, totally oxygenated, which is really important, especially in what we've been dealing with lately, how the cells stay totally oxygenated and free-flowing. But so you got the active oxygen. Now some of the physicists I've worked with found that's 5 or 6 molecules of active oxygen and active hydrogen. Now the active hydrogen, that's your pH, it's your hydrogen potential or the power of hydrogen. But it's the active hydrogen then that can repair the covalent hydrogen bonds in the DNA. It's putting the DNA back to its original unified. Because what radiation does, now understand, I know radiation literally from the inside out with my mother, right?
Okay.
I mean, I came in extreme radiation poisoning myself. And that's what we're all dealing with now is radiation poisoning. Radiation unzips the DNA, breaks those bonds. Okay,
when it comes to radiation,
put it back and repair those bonds.
What about this? How does this not emit any negative radiative effects?
And it's been tested and tested and tested every which way, and it's that, because that's a great question. Because of the phase conjugation, it creates a 0-point technology, and it creates a nullification of all detrimental and destructive fields. And that null zone effect, one of the president of the Biophysics Association, but he was a top researcher for the Pentagon, was sent to meet me and brought a $100,000 oscilloscope. And you can actually watch that video on YouTube.
When was this?
Oh gosh, that's a number of years ago. John Orava. And he brought that very specialized oscilloscope, but he's explaining what he's seeing and what it means. And it's showing that total nullification of the detrimental field effects, but also that's a total transmutation of all detrimental and destructive fields into beneficial, beneficial energy. And it's not just this or that frequency, it's spanning a full spectrum, because that's how the body works. And with a predominance in the, because we did a lot of brain research. He was considered the top brain researcher in the world. And then there's a predominance in the ideal optimal brain states, which has to do with the Schumann resonance. There's a predominance in the Schumann resonance and the 14 or so CPS, which is your cycles per second, which is the the energy found in a virgin rainforest, for example, and that kind of thing. And then some of the research we did was very, very interesting, because I have more than 30-some years of research in right-left brain synchronization. So that's very, very important to healing, because as long as there's brain dominance, there's constant imbalance, there's struggle. That's fright, flight, or fight. Constant compensation for imbalance. Right brain dominance or left brain dominance. We'd like to clear some of those domination issues and those power struggles on this planet. We just want to be in love, male and female in balance and unified. Unified, it's a good term. We want to come together, right? And that release of charge is that oneness with that organic love of creator and creation coming together within us. So that balance of right and left brain hemispheres creates your ideal whole brain thinking, your genius states, but activating, opening up all the neurotransmitters. You know, it's like being on drugs with no drugs because it's oxygenating the brain. It's a natural high.
Yep.
Antidepressant effects, things like that. Because people come out feeling very happy, and that was a significant piece in our initial clinicals that were done in 2001. With Dr. Victor Marcial Vega did the initial clinicals, 132 patient study. So people can read that on the research page. But he's an oncologist, so how many people come out of a cancer clinic feeling happy? That had never happened. But it creates those ideal optimal brain states. So some of that research was that you could go to a deeper meditational state than a Tibetan monk in 7 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, accelerate evolution. You have to teach people how to meditate. So I tell everybody to say all their prayers and focus on what you want, not what you don't want. Visualize. You know, that's visualization, but the power of prayer. And thank the body for functioning so perfectly, because you're literally breathing light to every cell and every part of yourself.
That's unbelievable.
Letting every cell know and remember the power of the truth, of the love, of our being here. So that's what that consciousness is about. So it's very, very interesting. So, but he explains it on the scientific side, and then we've worked with so many doctors and scientists, and like I said, the initial clinicals, 2001, and it goes on from there.
That's beautiful. So I understand, which is obvious at this point, the level of protection that you have on your life, on everything that you're building, on what you're doing. How do we ensure that this remains protected when you're no longer here?
Well, it can't stop. It's like a snowball. The Great Awakening will not be stopped. I have been promised that. I was also promised a few things coming in. And I'm here to teach kind of physical immortality. You could call this immortality medicine.
Yeah.
Infinity, everybody wants to know, how long does a charge last? You know, this is nonlinear, non-Hertzian, fifth-dimensional standing column or waves beyond relative time and space. They're trans-dimensional, interdimensional.
Yep.
And it's that zero-point energy. But how long does infinity last? It's like an infinitely projected Mobius. That's a way to understand the scalar vortex.
Okay.
And then we talked about that null zone. It goes out 2.2 miles every direction. This is industrial strength scalar.
This goes 2.2 miles out in terms of its effect.
That's the measured null zone, yes.
So you could pretty much protect an entire neighborhood.
Yeah, so it's about how do we create healthy communities? Because we have to come together.
Wow.
And create communion, you know, but we have to come together and be the greater community. So the benefit for the community is a nullification of the detrimental field effects. The hyper-healthy energy, the DNA is biophotonic, so it's in the room. The scalar goes through the walls, the photons don't. And your photons are your quantums of light. DNA, prime function of DNA, and this is Fritz Albert Popp's work, another biophysicist, but prime function of DNA, according to him, is the storage of photons. Yeah. And DNA is biophotonic. And so what we're literally doing, the core of the DNA, is the light from the stars. So you see that infinity wave, when it's applied to the body, allows a spiraling into the double helix of the DNA to kind of wipe all the slates clean with the light, and activate the light at the core of the DNA, which is the light from the stars.
Wow.
We are stardust.
You know what this is? This is physical, spiritual technology.
Yes.
It bridged the two worlds. Wow, that's unbelievable.
Yeah, and keeping the love, keeping the light, letting go of everything. That's that cellular memory erase in a sense. Letting go of anything and everything that no longer serves your greatest life, your greatest light, your highest purpose, your highest potential.
Wow.
Let's live it. How do you live it? we need people to stay strong no matter what we're exposed to now. So that's why we also created, can't you make it smaller? Well, we made it smaller. We have our EE medallions, EE bracelets, which helps maintain the integrity of the DNA and the red blood cells, which are that same donut shape, right?
What is the difference between this and that, really? Because on one side, which we'll get into, this is a whole different, monster that we're tackling over here.
And this is the baby.
Yeah, this is the baby, right? So what is the difference in terms of effects? Because the question was, do you have any smaller versions of that? And as a matter of fact, I'm wearing
These are pretty portable. They're very handy.
So what would be the difference between the two for those who don't have access to, let's say, a center that has this in their state or country?
Yeah. Well, these, these literally have lots of reported miracles where they've put it on somebody in the hospital in a coma and they've watched them come back to life and things like that. Because again, it reminds the body, of that infinite light, life, source, energy. So, we see miracles with them. The medallions are stronger than the bracelets.
Okay.
They do like a 5-foot cocoon. So people sleep with them. They put them wherever, they pass them around. Instead of aspirin for pain, they put them wherever there's inflammation. For vision improvement, which is one of the things we hear the most, is vision improvement.
Wow.
At every level. Because it's decalcifying the pineal gland, etc., and that ultimate meditational states. So people see things, they hear things, they get their the clearer the questions, the clearer the answers.
Absolutely.
And so I talk about letting yourself know whatever God wants you to know. Let yourself know whatever there is to know, the knowing of which allows all things to be totally clear as issues in your body, your life, your relationships, your family, your community, our whole world now. So that's part of, that going into that, when you know. It's going beyond belief or theoretical, intellectual. This is about embodiment. When you know, you know. And so let yourself know what God wants you to know. Ask and you shall receive. So people use these for meditation. This says the 5-foot cocoon. Of course, our Stanford, Harvard biophysicist, Dr. Glenn Ryan, did lab research with the medallions and found a 28% increase in the electrical conductivity. That's your cell signaling. It's all the coherence. Coherence is very, very, very important principle. Coherence, no impedance.
Wow.
So coherence in the body so that you stay strong no matter what you're exposed to. But it's 28% increase in the electrical conductivity of human DNA itself, just from the medallion. The bracelets work a little different because they're on a pulse point and the blood runs through it.
Okay. Tell me more.
But what we're dealing with is extreme radiation poisoning on the planet. I mean, people could look. I've done talks on that. We've been fooked. Now what? From Fukushima.
Big time.
That was considered. I was working with NASA physicists at the time to bring the solutions of advanced radiation poisoning or advanced radiation remediation. We want to, that's one of my projects is, for the planet, advanced radiation remediation, cleanup of the oceans of Fukushima site itself, the land, etc. And I can say unequivocally, we have everything to heal and fix and cure. Everything.
Absolutely.
But that was an extinction level event in itself because of the radiation levels. Now we've seen an acceleration of that with the 5G, etc. And another celebrity doctor, guru doctor, did testing with all these different things that's supposed to work against 5G, and all these things that are supposed to protect from it. Well, protection from radiation, protection from 5G doesn't work. Protection from, as a principle, doesn't work. Because the more you protect from, the more there is to protect from. Whatever you focus on expands, and all that creates is more fancy victim, because the more there is to protect from.
It's a very strong statement and a very true statement that you said, and I want to expand on that for a second for everybody that's watching, of what you focus on is what you're making stronger. And just restating what you said in a different way, because it's very true. if you're protecting from something, in a way you're even resisting that something, because you're strengthening it by saying, I have to protect more and more and more from this thing. You're giving it more power, therefore it has more
giving
power.
it power
over.
over.
Exactly. And I just wanted to highlight that, because it's
really an important principle, and that's why I say focus on what you want, not what you don't want. Yeah. Very, very, very important. We have to create what we want, you know, for our life and our world. We have to be the ones we've been waiting for. And so this is to help embody those principles so that you stay strong no matter what you're exposed to. But he tested all these things that were, including shungite, which is a great stone, but the only thing that actually worked on the 5G was this. And you can see this like a satellite receiver for the technology and that kind of thing, but it's because it creates a transmutation of energy into beneficial, like electrical precursors for the body, kind of like that. So it's a transmutational effect, which is very, very different. Let's make it beneficial.
Understood. You mentioned that 90% of where this technology is in private homes. The key over here is obviously making it as accessible as possible to more people in the public, because it's not necessarily affordable for the common man around the world, and we want to figure out a way to make this more accessible.
It needs to be everywhere fast.
That's the question, is do you have any direction or solutions, direct solutions of how we can change that ratio from being, instead of 90% of all of this incredible technology that's out there in private homes, get it 90% accessible to the public? How do we do something like that?
And there are beautiful
guidance?
Centers all over, but there needs to be a lot more for the people, because we've got so much to heal at this point. So much to turn around and so much to heal. Of course, I do a lot with the military. There are 1,100 wellness centers planned for veterans and their families.
With this technology?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, I've done a lot with veterans in the military. And
you mentioned these centers. I know you have centers, not necessarily yours, but certain individuals are purchasing this technology and then using it to heal others on like hourly sessions or sessions for a period of time. My family has done that in multiple centers in New York and New Jersey, and we've seen incredible impacts, beneficial impacts and effects. Is this something that anybody can do? Can anybody go, choose to open up a center, get this technology, and start providing it to the world?
Yes, it's really interesting because, like I said, it's not one-on-one. We can fill the rooms with 100 people at once. Sometimes we do that. It's many people at once. You can't heal the world, time and energy intensive, practitioner dependent, doctor dependent. This is like, how do we just bring healing energy for communities? And we don't make any claims. We don't, or the technology itself doesn't heal, fix, or cure anything. The power that made the body heals the body. And this is like a wireless human battery charger, raising the cell membrane potential, raising that cellular millivoltage. It's quadrupled mitochondrial activity in 1 hour, which explains all the rapid nerve cell regeneration, for example. Quadrupled mitochondrial activity, that's your power plants of the cells. And that's what's, we documented that when I lectured at the Royal Society of Medicine in London and did a pilot study with 9 people. Yeah, then we found that it was also bringing the pH into the proper pH of all the organs. There's a lot of research that we've done, but quadrupled mitochondrial activity is very highly significant.
So it's pretty much bringing everything back into harmony with itself.
Yeah, in cancer, for example, we're meant to be functioning at 70 to 90 millivoltage when healthy, right?
Okay.
Cancer can't exist in the body till it's below 20.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so I can show you some of the acuggraph research and things that show where it's been brought up to, from 21 to 80 is one of our examples in 1 hour.
Wow.
Yeah, the millivoltage of the cells. So it's literally, how do you plug the body into the cosmic light socket. And this is just healthy energy. That's it. It's just creating a healthy, energetic environment that supports the body and consciousness in healing, which means wholeness. And wholeness is also about remembering the holiness, the sacredness. And so letting go of the desecration that we've all been through, the total desecration and violation from every direction of the sacredness of our bodies and who we are, all that we are, and all that we're here for.
For those individuals around the world who would like to step up in that invitation that you put out, both men and women who want to step up and be a part of creating that change with at least helping bring this out there, how can they go about, for those who choose to create these centers? And by the way, what I love about that action that can be taken is it's twofold. It's giving somebody the ability to give back while also creating a business that gives back to people simultaneously. And that's how I see the toroidal field. It's not you have to lose so I can gain.
Right.
It's we can all work together to gain together in harmony with one another, where what you called the masculine, the feminine become in love once again and create that oneness and that unified field. So for those individuals who want to step up and take action to say, I want to bring this out there. I want to learn more about this. I want to open up a center in my town or village or city or state or whatever it is. How can that individual go about doing something like that?
Yeah, and it's pretty easy as far as, the technology. There's many ways to install. I mean, we have centers that just have cubes, but that's, ideally like your father and your aunt, they went to a 24-unit system. That's another whole world, because the 24 is more the geometry of the DNA. And then there's just recliners and things. And so it runs 24/7 because it's the energy going through the planet, like Tesla's work, right? It's like Tesla's. And it's each system that goes in expands the fields exponentially so that all supports. It's a really unique. So it runs 24/7, and all you have to do is put people in or let people come in and take a power nap. Because how it really works to recharge, it's kind of like when you're recharging your cell phone. As long as the eyes are open, 80% of the body's energy is being externalized to deal with the, environment. When you close your eyes and go to, all healing is in delta and theta brain states. That's where the repair, rejuvenation, regeneration is. Literally regeneration. You want to close the eyes, go to those deep states, do your meditation, focus on what you want, and go to the deep states where the body can internalize all that energy and use it to literally regenerate from inside out. So it's a power nap.
Literally.
Yeah, just like your cell phone, if you're still talking on it, it might keep it from dying. I mean, it's not like it's not working, and we have miracles with their eyes open too, every day. But, your cell phone doesn't recharge as efficiently if you're still talking on it.
Correct.
If or it's like rebooting a computer. Defrag. Coherence, creating coherence through the systems of the body.
So would you say that a 24-unit system, when it comes to a center, is probably the best?
That's
one
the
that you
best.
can get?
Although our clinicals have been with 4s and 8s. 8s primarily, because 8 units is 10 times better than a 4.
And it's always even numbers.
Yeah, because it's phase conjugation. They're precisely aligned. With lasers, you were asking about this before, how they're aligned, because the alignment, the precision of the alignment, we're trying to get that to within 1/100th of an inch tolerance.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's because and think about it, if one's out, it creates a wobble in the, a distortion or a wobble in the field, and if it's out too much, it's like a tilt-a-whirl. That's what's unique about these is 4 units internally that are precisely aligned, and then this creates like a photon fountain going out. So
it's interesting because as I look at you, I see there's like I see in my peripheral vision where what I see right now on the side is not what I see when I look straight at it. I see different lights on the screen when I look at you in my peripheral than I do when I look this way. I actually see patterns on the screen right now as I'm looking at you in my peripheral. It's very interesting. It's like what's embedded within that you can't necessarily see right off the bat, but it's coming at you through that form of light.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like a photon fountain. The downside of these, I mean, we created these and they don't have to be installed. That's the upside. They don't be installed. We ship them all over the world, especially during the last couple of years with dealing with all the issues that people are dealing with. They've been shipping all over the world. It's the mini version. It took a lot of dealing with the prototype to create, so this could go out. But you can't get your body in the middle of it so easily. It works, but it's kind of the slow boat. And we have miracles with it. You want a couple of those?
Please.
Yeah. I mean, so one of the prototypes that went out, and one of the initial ones where, it has some commercial applications, and this actually went out to commercial application, part of that 28% reduction in surface tension of water. That's some of the research. So reduction of surface tension has some commercial applications. Another topic, but that's also a lot of how it works in the body. If the water, water is 28% decrease in the surface tension, makes the water more hydrating. The body's mostly water. So that creates all the fluidity, but also a lot of aging is simply dehydration. Acute chronic dehydration. So in this commercial application with a cube in the back of a shop, the bottles of water are all bubbled up, the 5-gallon bottles, because it's really releasing the active oxygen and hydrogen, and it's having those effects on the water. So it's in the back of the shop. The guy 2 doors down is a veteran. Like I said, we've done a lot with veterans, and he needed bilateral knee replacements. Bone on bone, the cartilage was gone, and was in excruciating pain, and he had a gym 2 doors down from the cube. Well, he'd come visit and what have you, but he realized all the pain in his knees were gone, so he canceled his surgery. Now, he squats 475 pounds on those bad knees, right?
Not anymore. No bad knees
when
anymore. When I
talk about regeneration, we've seen anything and everything. Body wants to heal.
Yeah. And
so, that's one example. The woman across the way with the Chinese restaurant, 83 years old, who had macular degeneration and cataracts, inoperable cataracts. So she was blind, so she was selling her restaurant, but she started coming in. And she goes, I can see what's going on. I can see. So she went back to her ophthalmologist and found that the cataracts were completely gone. And 83 years old. So I guess, and then that encouraged us to try to make sure that we develop the prototype further. But that's the kind of miracles but it was slower, as far as in the time that it took. Than in the bigger system.
I want to see this in as many places as possible.
It's pretty, right?
I mean, it's very pretty. It's nice. It looks cool. It even looks good. It's not like it's this, it's this like thing in the room that you don't want there. It's a piece in and of itself.
It's kind of like a structural form of art. It's the way we didn't even really develop this. My son, who you met, worked on this and worked on this. We had done a number of things similar, testing things, and he worked on this to get it ready to go.
What I find,
but originally he developed it as an art piece.
I mean, that's exactly what it is. What I find amazing is when it comes to the centers, for example. Again, I know these. I mean, the cube is cheaper than a 24-unit system, granted, but when you open up a center like the ones they have in New York or New Jersey, let's say, you're spending like $50 an hour for something that would be not only an extraordinary amount of money through surgeries and everything that somebody would go through, but it doesn't do what it should do because of the conventional way of going through medical procedures. It no longer does anything because it's just physical. So when I see something like this, it's accessible. It does the job from the root. It bridges the physical world and the spirit world. And it brings all that together in that, what you called a unified field. It's a win-win-win for everybody.
It's an
in the
energy
equation.
spa where you can regenerate.
I want to ask you a question when it comes to something we said in the beginning of this interview, which really piqued my interest when it comes to this technology, healing modality. You as an individual, your history, your work. You mentioned to me when we first started talking, and I didn't know about this before, that TLS approached you sometime around 2011.
Right.
Can you share a little bit more about that? I know that there's a connection between this, you, and the organization. I want to understand from your perspective, from your experience with whatever you're comfortable with sharing, what was your experience with that encounter? How long did it last? What was your reaction, response? Give us a story here.
Well, it was interesting conversations initially, and basically it was about I was doing all the work. And I said, but I couldn't possibly do any more work than what I'm doing already. And they said, don't worry about it, just know that you're part of. And when it's time, you'll know more, and it'll be brought forward more. But that initial contact was July 11th, which is interesting, of 2011. So
about 11 years ago.
When I go back to looking at the initial invitation and being brought into that and talking about transduction, being recognized as a transducer in that system.
Which is interesting because I don't know if there's a connection between that and this, but for example, in the most recent disclosure interview, Disclosure 3, there was a method that Ray actually shared called transducing. It's spelt differently. It's done for certain purposes of being able to, for positive purposes, manipulate certain situations in order for them to get through certain things. Usually on the dark side of the equation with the dark people that they have to neutralize in certain situations. But even when I brought that up to you and you heard that, you felt a connection between what you were called and that. And again, I don't know how all of this connects, but I'm sure.
And the work we've been doing all this time.
Yeah.
We're waiting for this time,
So were you ever asked to be initiated into the organization?
I don't remember if I was specifically asked to be initiated. That I don't remember.
I understand that somebody by the name of Humphrey Angels brought TLS to your attention. Can you share a little bit more about who this man is and if we could have a better description of him?
Yeah, Humphrey Angelus is how he says it. He's originally from the Philippines, he's Filipino background. But I met him when we were doing, it was, what is it called? We were given an award by the Chinese Qigong Grand Masters, by the International World Qigong Conference. So I met him at a World Qigong Conference where we were given an award for producing the Qi technology, because this regenerates the source Qi and the Wan Qi. And it was the first time in the history of the world that the Chinese Qigong Grand Masters had given an award for a technology. That was crazy. But he was there with the Shaolin. He's very highly trained in Shaolin techniques, etc., and very, very special, very conscious being. And we recognized each other, and we both have been recognized as fulfillment of certain prophecies. And I had actually, years before that, had somebody sent from the Philippines to find me, and had validated, just like you checked and validated who I am. They came to and validated and said that I was part of the release of the gold from the tunnels in the Philippines, etc., the caves.
Without even knowing it.
And this was so many years ago. I mean, I think that was many, many years ago. And that was before I met Humphrey, and so we had that immediate connection with the projects for, this, what my guidance has called the great transference of wealth.
What is Humphrey's profession, position? Who is he exactly? What does he do in the world?
Oh, geez. That's a good question. He's been off doing filming and stuff. Bringing forward awareness, but actually wanting to organize people into leadership.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was kind of his focus now, and that's part of what we'll be doing. That's what the councilship that I was invited to be part of is more of a councilship and leadership of bringing people together to create the new. It's like there's a destructuring of the old systems. We've got to create the new systems. You can't even begin to fix how broken the old systems have been. Mm-hmm. So we've got to create the new systems of community, of life, in abundance. We have everything to heal everything, a new heaven and a new earth through us. Let's create heaven on earth, 1,000 years of peace. I mean, all that kind of prophecy. So that's what he's very much about.
There's so much that we can go into just based on that. But I want to...
So much to heal from all of that. Yeah. And yes, and yeah, this is the, everything they talk about with the med beds we've been doing, and that's part of, and we talk with Ray, you talk about the extraterrestrial and how they've taken them off planets. Well, I was asked to create the technology that was on the ships that they called the recalibration chambers. Wow. On the ships. That's what this was. I'm going, you want me to... In fact, when I got told to do all this, I'm going, you got the right channel? I'm blonde here. Of course, I'm the one that does the double blonde studies. That's what everybody jokes about. But it's like, do you have the right channel? You want me to do what? Because it was a whole download of what was to be done. And part of it was to recreate the recalibration chambers that were on the ships.
Okay. What'd you do with that?
Because it's for putting the DNA back when you go through hyperspace or go to different planets or do different missions or assignments or whatever. Mm-hmm. How do you put everything back in its original divine matrix, so to speak? That's what the recalibration chambers are for.
Have you ever worked on that?
Yeah.
Big picture. There's two questions. How can I support your work to help further expand on it and reach more people? And what can all of us do together to help support this and get this out to the world?
Awareness is power. But the only thing beyond love is more fully shared love. That's what we're being called to do. It was divide and conquer. We have to come together, unified field of consciousness. We have to be the greater community, and we have to share. Not just hold information to yourself, because the more we speak truth, the more others step forward and speak truth. If people are holding back out of fear of prosecution, persecution, that creates more fear of persecution, right? Mm-hmm. Just like you're doing. It's so important that you share the knowledge, share the truth, that we share with everybody with ears to hear, eyes to see. Christ said everything he did and more we're to do. Let's get on with it. We have access to unlimited power, infinite intelligence, unconditional love, should we choose to accept it. And I talk about it's time to quit just sitting on your access. Okay, and access that power, allow that power to rise up from within you. Spinal column is meant to be that standing column or wave or a pillar of light in the temple of God. And when we all stand together, God wins. So yeah, this needs to be out to everybody. Now that you know, you have accountability, responsibility, to share. Let's get it everywhere as fast as possible.
The only thing I'm going to ask of everybody, and I'm going to actually look at the camera and say this, is I hope that after hearing and seeing what you saw here, with all the very interesting connections that were made, do something. If you're not going to go and open up a center, go and share this with people that have that ability, that have the resources to do that, because we're all in it together to be able to help each other and share that love, as Sandra was saying. So I encourage you all not only to share this video, but take responsibility. And I like how you broke that up, responsibility. You have the ability to respond if you choose to. And instead of asking what's going to happen next, you have the ability to create what happens next. We all do, through something called free will. The purpose of this interview is to bring more awareness to light about light technology. A lot of you have been asking about medbed technology. This is very close, if not better, than what some of those psychopaths have in their power and in their hands. And thankfully, it's in the right hands with Dr. Michael. So I ask you all to do what needs to be done. Use your free will, exercise that free will, and let's get this out to the world, because that's how we're going to make a change. Dr. Michaels, thank you for your time, and thank you for your endless effort. Thank you for standing up. I know that there are risks that come with this, and you do it selflessly. So thank you, and I love you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me share with everybody, and let's get her done. We've got a whole world to heal.
Thank you.
Aloha.